To brother and sister.
There was once a little brother who took his sister by the hand and said, "Since our own dear mother's death, we have not had one happy hour. Our stepmother beats us every day, and, when we come near her, kicks us. Come, let's wander forth into the wide world." So all day long they traveled over meadows, fields, and stony roads. By the evening, they came into a large forest, and laid themselves down in a hollow tree, and went to sleep. When they awoke the next morning, the sun had already risen high in the heavens, and its beams made the tree so hot that the little boy said to his sister, "I am so very thirsty that, if I knew where there was a brook, I would go and drink. Ah, I think I hear one running." And, so saying, he got up, and taking his sister's hand they went to look for the brook. The wicked stepmother, however, was a witch, and had witnessed the departure of the two children, so, sneaking after them secretly, as is the habit of witches, she had enchanted all the springs in the forest. Presently, they found a brook, which ran trippingly over the pebbles, and the brother would have drunk out of it, but the sister heard how it said as it ran along, "Who drinks of me will become a tiger." So the sister exclaimed, "I pray you, brother, drink not, or you will become a tiger, and tear me to pieces." So the brother did not drink, although his thirst was very great, and he said, "I will wait till the next brook." As they came to the second, the sister heard it say, "Who drinks of me becomes a wolf." The sister ran up crying, "Brother, do not, pray do not drink, or you will become a wolf and eat me up." Then the brother did not drink, saying, "I will wait until we come to the next spring, but then I must drink. But then I must drink. You may say what you will, my thirst is much too great." Just as they reached the third brook, the sister heard the voice saying, "Who drinks of me will become a fawn. Who drinks of me will become a fawn." So the sister said, "Oh, my brother, do not drink, or you will be changed into a fawn and run away from me." But he had already kneeled down, and he drank of the water, and, as the first drops passed his lips, his shape took that of a fawn. At first the sister wept over her little changed brother, and he wept too, and knelt by her, very sorrowful. But at last the maiden said, "Be still, dear little fawn, and I will never forsake you." And taking off her golden garter, she placed it around his neck, and, weaving rushes, made a girdle to lead him with. This she tied to him, and taking the other end in her hand, she led him away, and they traveled deeper and deeper into the forest. After they had gone a long distance they came to a little hut, and the maiden, peeping in, found it empty, and thought, "Here we can stay and dwell." Then she looked for leaves and moss to make a soft couch for the fawn, and every morning she went out and collected roots and berries and nuts for herself, and tender grass for the fawn. In the evening, when the sister was tired and had said her prayers, she laid her head upon the back of the fawn, which served for a pillow, on which she slept soundly. But the brother regained his own proper form. Their lives would have been happy indeed. Thus they dwelt in this wilderness, and some time had elapsed when it happened that the king of the country had a great hunt in the forest, and now sounded through the trees the blowing of horns, the barking of dogs, and the lusty cry of the hunters, so that the little fawn heard them and wanted very much to join in. Said he to his sister, "Let me go to the hunt, I cannot restrain myself any longer." And he begged so hard that at last she consented. But she told him, "Return again in the evening, for I shall shut my door against the wild huntsman, and that I may know you, do you knock, and say, 'Sister dear, let me in,' and if you do not speak, I shall not open the door." As soon as she had said this, the little fawn sprang off quite glad and merry in the fresh breeze. The king and his huntsmen perceived the beautiful animal, and pursued him, but they could not catch him, and, when they thought they certainly had him, he sprang away over the bushes and got out of sight. Just as it was getting dark, he ran up to the hut and, knocking, said, "Sister mine, let me in." Then she unfastened the little door, and he went in and rested all night long upon his soft couch. The next morning the hunt was commenced again, and as soon as the little fawn heard the horns and the tally-ho of the sportsmen, he could not rest, and said, "Sister, dear, open the door. I must be off." The sister opened it, saying, "Return at evening, mind, and say the words as before." And the king and his huntsmen saw him again, the fawn with the golden necklace. They followed him close, but he was too nimble and quick for them. The whole day long they kept up with him, but towards evening the huntsmen made a circle around him, and one wounded him slightly in the hinder foot, so that he could run but slowly. Then one of them slipped after him to the little hut, and heard him say, "Sister, dear, open the door," and saw that the door was opened and immediately shut behind him. The huntsman, having observed all this, went and told the king what he had seen and heard, and he said, "On the morrow I will pursue him once again." The sister, however, was terribly afraid. When she saw that her fawn was wounded, and washing off the blood, she put herbs upon the foot and said, "Go and rest upon your bed, dear fawn, that your wound may heal." It was so slight that the next morning he felt nothing of it, and when he heard the hunting cries outside, he exclaimed, "I cannot stop away. I must be there, and none shall catch me so easily again." The sister wept very much and told him, "Soon will they kill you, and I shall be here alone in this forest, forsaken by all the world. I cannot let you go. I shall die here in vexation," answered the fawn, "if you do not, for when I hear the horn I think I shall jump out of my skin." The sister, finding she could not prevent him, opened the door with a heavy heart, and the fawn jumped out, quite delighted, into the forest. As soon as the king perceived him, he said to his huntsmen, "Follow him all day long till the evening, but let no one do him any harm." Then when the sun had set, the king asked his huntsmen to show him the hut, and as they came to it, he knocked at the door and said, "Let me in, dear sister." Upon this, the door opened, and stepping in, the king saw a maiden, more beautiful than he had ever beheld before. She was frightened when she saw, not her fawn, but a man enter, who had a golden crown upon his head. But the king, looking at her with a kindly glance, held out to her his hand, saying, "Will you go with me to my castle, and be my dear wife?" "Oh, yes," replied the maiden, "but the fawn must go too. Him I will never forsake." The king replied, "He shall remain with you as long as you live." The king took the beautiful maiden upon his horse and rode to his castle, where the wedding was celebrated with great splendor, and she became queen, and they lived together a long time. While the fawn was taken care of and played about the castle garden,